Republican Party has found its new star, someone who can help raise money with his recently raised profile. In our third story on the countdown, it is the gentleman from South Carolina, Congressman Joe Wilson. Yes, Joe Wilson, the man who embarrassed the nation and his own party by heckling the President of the United States. Congressman Wilson has now written a fundraising email for the National Republican Congressional Committee. It reads in part, "There has been a lot of debate on what is true in the debate over government-run health care, but Democrats continue to spin and mislead the public. Will you follow this link immediately to support the NRCC as we work to retire Nancy Pelosi and return the People's House to you?" It was in the People's House that Wilson shouted, "You lie," during President Obama's speech before a joint session of Congress. And though Wilson apologized to the president through his chief of staff, Wilson later refused to apologize to the House. Mr. Wilson has even been seen signing pictures of his outburst for constituents. And now he will be stumping for former Congressman Tim Walberg of Michigan. On October 2nd, Wilson will attend a fundraiser for Walberg, who is trying to regain the seat he lost to Democrat Mark Schauer. For $150, supporters get 2 tickets to the event and their very own photo with Congressman Wilson. The opposition has pounced. A spokeswoman for Congressman Schauer saying in a statement, "By embracing his former colleague, Tim Walberg has made it clear that he embraces what is wrong with Washington and is not serious about fixing our broken healthcare system. If you are the company you keep, then Tim Walberg stands with Joe Wilson and the obstructionists." Let's bring in the Washington editor of The Nation, Chris Hayes. Good to have you with us tonight, Chris.
Good to be with you, Lawrence.
So, is it fair to say that the National Republican Congressional Committee has revealed itself by this choice and is making a statement about who they believe their supporters are? Their supporters are the people who think heckling the president is a great idea.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't even think they're making a miscalculation, to be honest. I mean, if you looked at the signs on the 9/12 march, you know, it's clear that he's become something of a hero among the right-wing base, and those are the people that you're raising money from. So, you know, the sort of polarizing figures are always useful for both sides, actually, in fundraising appeals, and you see that sometimes with fundraising appeals that go out, you know, sort of targeting some villainous character on the other side, or some heroic figure on your own side, or coming from this sort of supposedly heroic figure. So there's no question that he's ascended to become kind of an icon. I think it's fitting. He's very representative of the ethos of the House Republican caucus, particularly, but the sort of current incarnation of the Republican Party.
Now, how did it come to it that one party is represented by a learned former president of the Harvard Law Review who is a scholar and is poised and is graceful, elegant, well-spoken, and the other party is represented by someone who you wonder if he needs a breathalyzer before he goes into congressional sessions where the president is speaking? How did it come to this, that Republicans, you know, there used to be an image of country club Republicans, well-bred, waspy, dignified people who just didn't like taxation. What's happened here?
Well, I guess I should say I wasn't crazy about that brand of Republicans either. I mean, there's, you know, one can make a fetish of civility and manners to the extent that there were a lot of very brutal union busters who I'm sure had perfectly good manners. But look, I think at this point, right, the thing the Republican Party is doing, they're being led, they're channeling the rage and alienation of a certain small percentage of their base, this kind of backlash sensation. And they're making a political gamble that channeling that, embracing that, is going to lead to some electoral success, I think, in the short term, in the midterms, and more broadly, some kind of resurgence of the Republican Party. And I don't think it's necessarily a crazy political tactical notion, but I think it's really interesting to look at the polling recently, which is really suggesting, and I was agnostic on this point, the polling is really suggesting that it is indeed backfiring. And if you look at, for instance, on health care, the point at which the slide in support for the president's health care plan stopped and began to reverse was right around the moment of the town halls. And Joe Wilson is so sort of linked, I think, in people's mind with this general acting out that the Republicans have been engaging engaging in that I think that they're misplaying their hand. I think that they're embracing what is fundamentally going to be a poor strategy.
Now, you cannot win national elections with Republicans alone. You might be able to do it in Joe Wilson's district, but you can't do it nationally. You've got to appeal to swing voters. You've got to appeal to independents. It seems to me Joe Wilson just has to kill them with independents.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I mean, independents are generally, I mean, almost by definition, right? They're suspicious of people that are polarizing, polemical, and even overly zealous, right? Of any persuasion. So I think he is going to be toxic for swing voters, and I think the press release that you were just reading from indicates that that's a calculation being made by the Democrat in that district, that Wilson is toxic enough, and presumably that's a swing district also. I think it's also important to note here that Wilson is, as you said, coming from a very safe district, right? And there's this misalignment right now between the people that have the highest, the largest platform in the Republican Party, who are emanating from very, very safe conservative areas, and the interests of the National Party, which is going to have to win in places that aren't as friendly to that kind of worldview.
Chris Hayes of The Nation magazine, many thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.